Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sri Umar. We are from Group 7, and we are going to continue the presentation materials that has been discussed in previous meeting by the previous group. And today we would like to discuss about some materials from the ebook. And next slide, please. And here are the members of Group 7. There are Aqilah Khoirunnisa, Destia Fitriani, Mutiara, Noviyanti, and Putri Fitriani K. So, next slide, please. And this is the first topic that we are going to discuss. Is the story and plot. This topic is same with the previous meeting. Story and plot. Story is usually considered any action referred or implied to on stage but not seen. But whereas plot is the sequence of related events that make up a story of a drama. And what is the combination of sequences? Look to the definition of the sequences. A dramatic unit comprised of shots or scenes linked together by a common idea or image. So it's the combination of scenes linked together by an idea and something like that. Next slide, please. And the next one is the superimposition of sequences. A primary dramatic level contains within it a secondary dramatic level that introduces an additional fictional element. And drama can be defined as a dramatic work that actors present on stage. And the two most important forms that exploit this hierarchical arrangement of fictional levels are the dream inset, in which the additional fictional element consists of the unreality of the dream and its concrete manifestation on stage, and the play within the play, in which the fictionality of dramatic presentation is strengthened by the introduction of a secondary fictional level in the form of a theatrical performance embedded in the structural framework of the primary dramatic level. Next slide, please. After that, we are going to continue about the dream insight. What is dream insight? Dream insight, when the stage is changed to represent the inside of the dreamer's mind, while the dream sequences are also performed multimodal. And the additional fictional element consists of the unreality of the dream and its concrete manifestation on stage. And the most common form is the narratively mediated dream. And one of the part of dream insight is the dream soliloquy. What is it? It's like talking to oneself, talking to yourself, because soliloquies allow the audience to know what the character is thinking or feeling. A soliloquy often creates dramatic irony, as the audience is made aware of thoughts and events that the other characters in the play are not. But according to Freud, dreams have two contents. A manifest content, which is the dream that one actually experiences, and a latent content, which is the meaning of the dream as discovered by interpretation. And the example is Franz Grillparz's The Dream, Alive, The Traum in Leben, and Arthur Schnitzler, One Act play, the woman with the dagger, die Frau mit dem Dolche, from the cycle lively hours, Lebendai Stunden. Subordinate dream sequences of this kind can fulfill a variety of different functions, from characterization, plot motivation, and thematic mirroring to implicit references to the theatrical medium itself. And the first and the last of these are functions specifically associated with this form of plot combination. The relationship between the dreamer and the dream instead is analogous to that between the implied author and the text as a whole. Next slide, please. And the next discussion is about the play within the play. If you hear the phrase "the play within the play," you can assume that it's like play in another play. What does it mean? A play that is being performed in the confines of another play, and the character of the play watch the play being performed. Okay, can you imagine that? And the next one is another reference of the play within the play is interlude. What is interlude? It's like a short entertainment put on between the courses of a phase or the acts of a play. The readers are not the intended audience of the play within play, and the play within the play structure keeps us at a frustrating distance from the definite truth of things. It is also of a piece with mirroring nature of the tragedy, the drama in which experiences are constantly multiplied. And the example of play within the play we can find in the Shakespeare like A Midsummer Night's Dream, 12 Night Loves Labour's Loss. But what is it? The most famous play within the play is A Midsummer Night's Dream, and also if you hear, it's about Hamlet. The term play within play was first introduced by Thomas Kyd in the Spanish tragedy in 1589, and he's also known as the author of original Hamlet. Next slide, please. The play within the play in Shakespeare's Hamlet. In Act 2, Scene 2, Hamlet conceives the plan of staging a play called The Murder of Gonzago. And Hamlet wanted to make sure that the ghost of his father was not the devil in disguise. So yeah, Hamlet wanted to make sure that the ghost of his father wasn't devil in disguise. So what is the example of the scene in Shakespeare's Hamlet? The spirit that I have seen may be the devil, and the devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape. And also, this Hamlet tells the story of Gonzago, the Duke of Vienna, and his wife Baptista, who marries his murdering nephew Lucianus. It's the kind of a play with the genre of tragedy. So that's all from me. The next discussion will be delivered by the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Putri. And okay, so continue to the next material that discuss about the play within the play. The play within the play, or a story within a story, is when the characters of the play are watching become the actors and audience members of a play within the play. So one specific example of the play within the play in A Midsummer Night's Dream. The macro structure of this text consists of a hierarchically graded pattern of 4 interlocked sequences. All 4 sequences follow a similarly structured pattern involving a transition from a dynamic situation filled with a potential conflict and suspense to one that is static, and once reached mark the end of the text. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare created the same highly suggestive contrast between a love comedy and a love tragedy that was also suggested by the chronological proximity of A Midsummer Night's Dream and between Romeo and Juliet. Both were written about 1595 in the external communication system. Okay, next slide. Okay, segmentation and composition. The segmentation of the story and the story presentation is the macro structure of a dramatic text, indeed of every kind of text. Takes the form of a syntagmatic pattern of its constituent elements. It consists of several large sections which in turn may be divided into a subsection almost ad infinitum. The number of relevant layers of subdivision varies from the text to the text. Open drama, for example, will be constructed much less hierarchically than closed dramas. The deep structural level, the story on which the presentation based, is divided up according to certain semantic and logical criteria, and the most important layers in ascending order or individual action or event. Phases of action or event and sequences of action and event. Structural of segmentation on the surface. On the other hand, the dramatic presentation of the story is marked by change in configuration, interruption in the chronologically and spatial continuity, and additional signals such as lowering or raising the curtain intervals, and most important, historical, and the division into scenes and ache. The division into scenes and ache. Okay, next please. Okay, next is the segmentation of the story and the story presentation on Destia Fitriani. The surface structure of the text, that is the literary text used in performance, is divided into 5 sections, each of which is clearly marked by a complete change of configuration, the interruption of spatial and chronological continuity by intervals, and the raising or lowering of the curtain. The way the dramatic presentation is divided into segments is therefore an important element in the structural transformation of the story into a plot. The tripartite, linear, and unicule phase structure is transformed into a five-part, axially symmetrical and balanced act structure, and the beginning of the third phase. The arrival of these become the central peripetia of Act 3. Act 1 and Act 2 develop the conflict potential which then reaches crisis point and runs down in Act 4 and 5. This paradigmatic analysis of Rosine Pedri, describing the relationship between the tripartite structure of the story and the fifth act structure of the play, cannot be applied universally in play, and it can only be applied to this text. Next, please. The segmentation of the dramatic presentation. There are two aspects that discussion of the surface structural segmentation of the drama. Presentation must both take into consideration and yet, as far as possible, keep strictly apart the systematic and historical aspect of segmentation criteria and the historical aspect of segmentation convention. Since the existence of historical conventions presupposes the existence of certain systematic criteria, we shall first concentrate on the latter. Next, please. And the criteria and signal of segmentation. The smallest units of segmentation are marked by partial changes in the configuration. Thus, the section of a text that exists between two partial changes in the configuration represent the smallest macrostructural unit of segmentation. Every entries or exit of one or more figures is therefore a significant development on this level of segmentation, and the unit it creates can only subdivide it further by introducing thematic, theoretical, or situative criteria. And next, is units of segmentation. The smallest units of segmentation in German usually called Auftrieb, and in French since has no name in English theoretical terminology. It is the unit whose beginning and end are marked by partial changes in the configuration. Okay, that's all from me. And the next presentation will be presented by Aqilah. The time is yours.
Thank you, Destia, for your explanation. Hello, everyone. My name is Aqilah Khoirunnisa, and now I'm going to continue the presentation about also a segmentation. So we're going to continue segmentation. The next unit of segmentation can be identified. Wait a minute. I'm going to pin myself. Okay, we're going to continue about segmentation. The next unit of segmentation can be identified as a series of configuration that ends when all of the figures leave the stage. Example, when a total change of configuration occurs, or when the time-space continuum is interrupted. So we know that the end of segmentation can be identified or can be marked when all casts or all the figures leave the stage, and then when the time or the dialogue in the segment is over. And also we're going to talk about composition. This contrast between a flexible arrangement of scene on the one hand and more rigid structure on the other touch on one of the central elements in the theory of dramatic composition. Until the 19th century, such theories had an underlying tension, which was strongly normative, but since the turn of the 20th century, they have experienced something of a transformation in both overall intention and method.
from normative perspective to topological description. Or in other words, or we can say composition is arrangement into specific proportion or relation, and especially into artistic form. And a comparison of Gustav Vertek influential technique of drama, first published in 1863, and Volker Klotz, Jack Lawson, and open form in drama, open and closed drama in 1960, also best to illustrate the extent of this transformation. So in composition, there are two kinds of drama. There are closed drama, closed from drama, and then open from drama. And we're going to talk about the closed from drama first. So what is closed from drama? The ideal type of closed from is based on a completely self-contained story in which there are no background event to influence the beginning, in which the ending is absolutely final, and the presentation of which the fable or plot conform to the Aristotelian demands of unity and totality. So closed drama has a linear plot, has a linear structure, and basically there is one conflict that done in that one drama. Unit of plot, according to Aristotle, means that the drama consists of a single plot. It's just one plot sequence, or if there are more than one, the primary plot should predominate clearly over the others, and which in return have no claims to autonomy and which are designed to be completely subordinate to it. So if there are another conflicts, the primary conflicts or plot should predominate or dominate in that drama, and over in just one drama. And the next slide is in positive terms, the totality of the plot means that everything is there somehow belongs to it, completeness. And in negative terms, the all elements they are not indispensable or omitted. So the positive side, the conflict is complete in just one drama, but in the negative side, the elements they are not indispensable or omitted. And a conflict between clearly defined antagonist force develops out of a transparent national situation based on a finite and comprehensible set of facts. This conflict is then led towards an ambiguous solution at the end. So in close drama, the cast is clearly defined. Who is the antagonist one? Who is the protagonist one? From this, it's clear that the ideal type of close drama corresponds most closely to the historical dramatic form that Gustav Friedrich strove to prescribe as a normative ideal in the 19th century. His theory was that the plot is based on a pyramid-like structure, which here is painted graphically as follows. So there are introduction and then exciting force, also continue with rising movement, and there are climax, and then tragic force, fall reversal, also there are force of final sense, and ending with catastrophe. So the Indian tradition is basically identifying the cause or the conflict, and then rise the conflict is known, and climax is the conflict is complicated, and also the return of fall as the conflict is fixed, and then catastrophe is when the final action that complete all the plot or all the story. So the next is we're going to talk about the open form. As an ideal type, open form is defined as a counter. As an ideal type, open form is defined as a counter model to that of closed form, and is thus determined from a negative perspective. One of the problems that this creates is the question to what extent this idealized type can be applied to specific drama text. So we know that upper form is counter model or kebalikan dari closed form. And this was something that Claude either ignored or failed to see clearly enough. For although a positively determined idealized form can cover a relatively homogeneous corpus of text, one determined from a negative perspective must be able to subsume a wide variety of techniques that negate the closed form. So in the open form, the drama has no linear structure. The drama has many plot and many conflicts that can make the drama complicated. And the difference between closed and open drama, the closed form of drama develop the story as linear and continuous progression, and strictly arranged series and scene and act, and the loose pattern of scenes of open drama tend to break it up into a series of repetition and variation. So we can see the closed form has linear and continuous progression, has one plot, has one conflict, but in the open dramas, there are many conflicts, there are repetition, the kind of series that has many conflict. And this is also conditioned by the fact that the acts and scene have different function in open dramas than they do in closed dramas. In later, the act represent the decisive unit of segmentation, and the text as a whole is construction as a tectonically clearly structured pattern consisting of small number of units of similar length. In open drama, on other hand, it is the scene that as the decisive structural unit, delegating the acts, and so far as they are not omitted altogether a secondary role as loose group of scenes. So in a simple way, we can say closed drama. The example of closed drama is film, and the example of open drama is drama who has many episodes, who has many series. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention, and the next explanation will be delivered by the next speaker. Thank you.
Okay, the next slide, please. The next material have many types, and I will explanation about structure of time and space. The first is the reality and fictionality of time and space in drama. With the figure and its verbal or non-verbal behavior, the concept of time and space represent the basic concept categories within the dramatic text. As far as the category of time is concerned, however, this contrast has to be qualified in some way. In both our narrative and dramatic text, the presentation of time is specific and concrete. In the former as narrative time, in the latter as the actual playing time. However, only in drama can present time always be clearly defined. In narrative text, it can only appear as a clearly defined category in the context of scenic narration. These differences are a direct consequence of the multimediality of dramatic text, in contrast to the purely verbal form of presentation employed in narrative text. The actual space taken up by stage and auditorium on the external level correspond on the internal level to the fictional space in which the story unfolds, with the fictional temporal axis of the story corresponds to the real temporal axis of the performers and the receiver. This overlapping of reality and fiction also applies to every single structural element of the theoretical text. The actor on the external level corresponds to the figure he or she represent on the internal level. The actual stage set to the fictional local, the real life costumes to the fictional clothing worn by the figures, and the real property to the fictional objects used by the stage. Oh, sorry, used by the figures. In drama that is epic in this way, the audience is constantly being reminded of the tension in the relationship between the real time space that exists and the fictional one. However, there have also been a number of avant-garde experiments conceived with the conscious intention of exploring an extreme of dramatic form. All that happenings or performance art have in common with drama, as we understand its multimedially and the collective nature of production and reception. What they lack is the superimposition of one communication system on other, and thus the two deistic system of reference. It is this element of superimposition that has already been identified as the quality that distinguishes dramatic text from other types. Example, Peter Handke in his play Publikum Beschimpfung in 1966 actually set out to achieve a genuine kind of identify between real and fictional structures of time and space. This is expressly explained to the audience by the figures them. And then the next is open and closed structure of time and space. The first is normative theories. If we define the closed concept of space from a negative perspective as okay, I will continue the material. The next is normative theories. If we define the closed concept of space from a negative perspective as the omission of change of local and the closed concept time as the exclusion of all chronological. This continuity, the unities of time and space are principles that apply within each scene in dramatic text. As a unit of segmentation in drama, each scene is nothing but a closed time-space continuum in the play, with each scene being marked by a change of local or a rupture in time. The next is the unities of time and space as norms. This general principle of scenic presentation derived from absolute autonomy of drama is not what is meant by the well-known historical unities of time and space, which have been such a crucial aspect of dramatic theory since the Renaissance. In defense of their normative application of the three unities of time, space, and plot, the critics generally cite Aristotle's Poetics, but this really only calls for the unity of plot, whereas the unity of time is only mentioned briefly as a formal tendency in contemporary dramas. And then, as regards slang, tragedy tends to fall within a single revolution of the sun, and the unity of space is not mentioned at all. In the Renaissance, It was only Castelvetro who subscribed to such a strict interpretation, which has in fact an extension of time-space continuity from the individual scenes to take in the whole text. Theorists justified the normative implementation of the unities of time and space by appealing to the more general principles, plausibility, and reason. They felt that change of local and sudden jumps in time would overtake the imaginative capabilities of the audience, which, after all, remains in one place continually throughout the performance, and the raptures would therefore also endanger or even destroy the dramatic illusion. The next is abolition of the unities of time and space. This point that 18th century criticism took over and finally brought about the complete collapse of this kind of rule-oriented dramatic theories. Mana sih? The device, the decisive factor in the move away from the classic rule-oriented theories, which was manifest in the dismissive treatment of purely ornamental solution of the unities time and space. The way the dramas of Shakespeare were received in the 18th century, with their apparent lack of concern for the normative application of time and space unity, and their often panoramic and expensive structure of time and space, they were felt to represent a countermodel to French dramatic theory and practice. In other words, the dramatic fiction does not see out to defies the audience by pretending that the illusion it presents is actually reality. Its fictionality is established in advance as part of the dramatic code of communication between the author and the audience. Example from Johnson that has argued correctly that within the frame of reference established by this kind of agreement is irrelevant in principle whether the stage is intended to represent either a single fictional locale throughout or a series of different ones, whether the fictional timescale represents either an unbroken continuum or a section of episodes. By rejecting the inappropriate application of the criteria of plausibility and reason to fictional text, inappropriate because they fail to take their fictionally sufficiently into consideration. Johnson and other contemporary theories of drama justifies perspective the practice not only of Elizabeth and Jacobin drama, but also of the theater of the Middle Ages, and this enabled drama as a whole to develop historical with a greater degree of formal flexibility. The next one is dramatic practice. The first is closed structures of time and space. This brief discussion of the history of dramatic theory from the 16th to the 18th centuries addressed a problem, the normative discussion of which can now only be of interest from a historical point of view. However, it must also be examined within the framework of a systematic and descriptive theory of dramatic form. The next is open and close. The last is open. Oh, no. The last is open structure of time and space. Each shift of local and each jump in time actually undermines the absolute autonomy and an immediate quality of the fiction present because they cannot be related to an expressive subject in the internal communication system of the fiction. Instead, they are related to a mediating communication system through which a series of constructing or corresponding scenes with different time and space basis is introduced to provide a sort of explanation and commentaries on those scenes. This epic tendency or narrative function becomes more strongly marked as the structure of time and space become more open. Here too, it is possible to establish a sliding scale moving from the hermetic, strictly interdependent unities of time and space on the one hand to the openness of the more panoramic structure of time and space that Shakespeare used in his history on the other. Of course, the narrative function in such cases differs decisively from the narrator in narrative text because it remains implicit rather than being linked explicit to a tangible figure. The section of different local is used to present a vast tapestry of images in which public and private locals, interiors, and seen in towns or open countryside, aristocratic and plebeian environments. England and France are constantly being constructed. After a sequence of scenes from the battlefields, which seem to cover the whole of England and France like a topographical map and emphasizes the horrors of war, the scene always returns to London, where the changed constellation of power are ratified either in the royal place, Westminster Abbey, or the Tower. The next is, I think it's for me. Thank you for the attention.
All right, it was the last discussion of our materials today. We can take a conclusion of our presentation. Story and plot are the essential part when story and a plot are essential part in a play or drama. And there are open form and closed form in the drama, where open form is very free and closed form is more structured. And another way to look at this is that traditional plays typically employ a closed structure, while most contemporary plays are open. And the two most important forms that exploit this hierarchical arrangement of fictional levels are the dream inset and the play within play. Hamlet and A Midsummer Night's Play are two kinds of example of dream inset and the play within the play. And stuff for the materials of structures of time and space, we can Sum up, there are three aspects. The first one is the reality and fictionality of time and space in drama. And the second one is open and closed structures of time and space. And the last part is dramatic practice. So that's all from group 7, and we do apologize if there were mistakes. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.